In America, success is often painted as a lonely climb, one man, one dream, one mountain. But the truth is rarely that simple. This is the story of Ethan Walker, a man the world would one day call self-made, and the woman history almost forgot. Ethan grew up in a small industrial town in Ohio, where factories breathed smoke and dreams suffocated quietly. His father believed in toughness, not tenderness. His mother believed in survival. Love was not spoken. It was implied through silence. From a young age, Ethan learned one lesson well. If you want something, you fight alone. By 25, he was working 2 jobs, one as a warehouse supervisor by day, another as a night delivery driver. Truly afraidless and deeply afraid of failure. Success to him meant escape. That's when Claire Monroe entered his life. She was not dramatic, not loud, not someone who demanded attention. She listened. They met at a public library-thon studying business books. Claire reading psychology. Their conversations were simple at first, but something shifted when she said one sentence that stayed with him for years. Most men don't fail because they weak. They fail because they're alone when they're tired. Ethan laughed it off. But that night, driving through empty highways, those words echoed louder than his engine. Claire didn't give Ethan money. She didn't hand him connections. She didn't solve his problems. What she did was something far more dangerous to a man who believed in isolation. She believed in him before he believed in himself. When Ethan decided to quit his stable job to start a logistics startup from his garage, everyone warned him, "You're crazy. You're risking everything. Be realistic." Claire didn't say any of that. She said, "If you fail, we'll learn. If you succeed, we'll grow. But if you never try, you'll die slowly." That night, Ethan slept peacefully for the first time in months. The first year was brutal. A man can succeed without a woman, but a man succeeds deeper, stronger, and longer when a woman stands beside him, not behind him. Success does not arrive quietly. It knocks loudly and then it refuses to leave. As Ethan Walker's company grew, so did the distance between who he was and who he was becoming. Meetings replaced meals, deadlines replaced conversations, ambition replaced rest. And slowly, without meaning to, Ethan began to forget something dangerous. Who carried him when he had nothing. The media loved him. They called him relentless. They called him fearless. They called him independent. Each word stroked his ego like a reward he felt he had earned alone. Claire watched this transformation quietly. She noticed how Ethan now checked emails during dinner. How his laughter sounded rehearsed. How stress hardened his voice. One night, she said gently, "You're winning, Ethan." "But you're not breathing." He dismissed it. "This is what success costs," he replied. "Everyone sacrifices." Claire nodded, but something in her eyes dimmed. "Here's a truth few men are prepared to hear. Success doesn't test intelligence, it tests character. Character is often revealed in how a man treats the person who supported him when he was invisible." The breaking point came during a business conference in Chicago. Ethan was nominated for Entrepreneur of the Year. He stood under bright lights, applause crashing like waves. In his speech, he said, "I built this company from nothing. No shortcuts, no help, just grit." The crowd roared. Claire sat in the back. Not because she was angry, but because she felt erased. That night in the hotel room, silence was heavier than any argument. Finally, Claire spoke. "Do you really believe you did this alone?" Ethan hesitated. "I worked hard," he said defensively. "Yes," she replied. "But who held you together when your hard work was falling apart?" He had no answer. This is where many relationships die, not from betrayal, but from neglect, disguised as ambition. Men are taught to chase success, but rarely taught how to carry gratitude with them. Over the next months, tension grew. Ethan felt misunderstood. Claire felt unacknowledged. One evening, she said something that terrified him. "I don't want to be the woman who helped build a man who no longer sees her." That sentence shook him more than any financial loss ever had. For the first time, Ethan questioned the myth he had lived by. Is a man truly successful if he conquers the world, but loses his foundation? He realized something painful. Claire was not slowing him down. She was the anchor that kept him from drifting into emptiness. Men often ask, can a man succeed without a woman?
Yes.
But the better question is, What kind of man does success turn you into without one? Ethan began to see the invisible labor Claire carried. She absorbed emotional storms, so he could stay focused. She offered honesty when the world only offered praise. She reminded him who he was before success rewrote his identity. That night, he did something he hadn't done in years. He apologized, not for being busy, not for working hard, but for forgetting that success is shared even when the spotlight isn't. There is a kind of strength that never asks to be seen. It doesn't shout, it doesn't compete, it simply endures. Claire Monroe had been strong for so long that even Ethan forgot to notice. As Ethan rebuilt his awareness, Claire was quietly losing herself. While his world expanded, boardrooms, investors, interviews, hers began to shrink. She had put her graduate studies on hold, turned down job offers that required relocation, became the stable one so he could chase instability. No one applauded that. Not society, not the headlines, not even Ethan, until it almost became too late. One afternoon, Claire sat alone in the same public library where they had first met. She opened her old notebook. On the first page, written years ago, were the words, "I want to help people understand themselves." Tears fell not from regret, but from realization. She had supported a dream so fully that she forgot to protect her own. Here is the uncomfortable truth. A woman's role in a man's success should never cost her identity. Support is not self-erasure. Love is not disappearance. And sacrifice, when unbalanced, turns into silent resentment. That evening, Claire told Ethan something she had never said out loud. "I'm proud of you, but I'm not proud of who I'm becoming." Ethan felt panic rise in his chest. The first time, success felt fragile. Not because the company was at risk, but because the woman who made him possible was fading. Men are often taught to lead, but rarely taught to notice. Ethan began to see how his growth had demanded her stillness, how his confidence had relied on her quiet reassurance, how his identity had expanded while hers paused. That realization crushed him. That night, he didn't offer promises. He asked a question instead. "Who were you before me?" Claire smiled sadly. "I was someone," she said. "I want to be her again." That sentence changed everything. Here is where true masculinity begins, not in dominance, but in space-making. A strong man does not need a woman smaller than him. He needs a woman whole beside him. Ethan decided to do something radical. He stepped back. Not from ambition, but from ego. He encouraged Claire to return to her studies, adjusted his schedule to match hers, listened without trying to fix, and slowly, something shifted. Claire's voice grew lighter, her posture stronger, her laughter real again, and strangely, Ethan's success didn't shrink. It stabilized. A man can rise faster when a woman supports him, but he rises higher when he supports her too. This was the lesson Ethan had never been taught. Success, he learned, is not a ladder where one climbs while the other holds the base. It is a bridge built together, crossed together. Every man reaches a moment where success demands a price. It's not money, not time. Values. Ethan Walker's moment arrived without warning. His company was offered a major acquisition, deal national expansion, global recognition, and generational wealth. The condition was simple. Relocate to Silicon Valley. Commit fully. No distractions. The board called it a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Claire called it a crossroads. For weeks, Ethan couldn't sleep. This deal would cement his legacy, put his name among the greats, prove once and for all that he was extraordinary. But something had changed inside him. He no longer measured success only by applause. He measured it by peace. Claire was thriving again, back in school, working part-time in community counseling, becoming the woman she had nearly lost. When Ethan told her about the deal, she listened carefully. Then she said something unexpected. "I don't want you to choose me out of fear. I don't want to lose myself again. For your dream." Her words were steady, but final. Here lies a hard truth most men avoid. A woman who supports you deserves a choice, not a sacrifice. Love is not proven by abandonment of self by either side. The pressure was immense. Investors pushed, mentors warned. Friends reminded him how rare this chance was. One mentor said bluntly, "You can build relationships later. Success doesn't wait." That sentence haunted Ethan because he knew the other half of the truth. People don't wait either. One night, Ethan stood alone in his office, staring at the city lights. He thought of the nights Claire had calmed his doubts, the mornings she had believed when he couldn't, the silence she had carried so he could be loud in the world. He realized something devastatingly simple. If success required him to abandon the person who helped him become whole, then it wasn't success. It was escape dressed as achievement. Ethan declined the deal. The board was stunned. The industry whispered. Some called him foolish. But for the first time in years, Ethan felt aligned. Here's the lesson most men never hear. Walking away from power can be the most powerful act, because it proves you are not owned by your ambition. Instead of expansion, Ethan restructured. Smaller growth, shared leadership, sustainable vision. Something unexpected happened. The company didn't collapse, it matured. Claire watched this transformation with quiet pride. Not because he chose her over success, but because he chose integrity over ego. That night, Claire said softly, "This is the man I believed in." Ethan smiled, not because he had won, but because he had chosen correctly. Years later, when people spoke about Ethan Walker, they used careful words. They called him balanced. They called him respected. They called him different. Not because he built the biggest company, but because he built a meaningful life. Ethan no longer chased headlines. He mentored young entrepreneurs, spoke less but listened more. And when he did speak, he told a story most men weren't prepared to hear. At a leadership conference in New York, a young man asked him a familiar question. "Sir, do you think a man needs a woman to be successful?" The room went silent. Ethan paused. Then he said, "A man doesn't need a woman to make money, but a man often needs a woman to make sense of his life." This is the truth Ethan had learned the hard way. A man alone can build empires. But empires don't teach you who you are. Claire never managed his company. She never took credit. She never stood on stage. Yet she shaped the man who could stand there without losing himself. They married quietly. No media, no grand announcement. It's just a promise to grow, not overshadow, to support, not shrink, to walk together, not follow. Claire completed her studies and became a respected counselor. Ethan watched her success with the same pride she once gave him. For the first time, their growth moved in parallel. Here is the final answer most men are afraid of. Yes, a man can become successful without a woman. Yes. But success without emotional grounding often turns hollow. Without reflection, it turns arrogant. Without partnership, it turns lonely. A woman's role is not to complete a man, it is to humanize his ambition. History remembers men as heroes, but history forgets the women who protected their humanity. Behind calm leaders were patient listeners. Behind resilient men were women who refused to let them break inwardly. Ethan ended his speech with these words: "If you want money, work alone." They married quietly. No media, no grand announcement. It's just a promise to grow, not overshadow, to support, not shrink, to walk together, not follow. Claire completed her studies and became a respected counselor. Ethan watched her success with the same pride she once gave him. For the first time, their growth moved in parallel. Here is the final answer most men are afraid of. Yes, a man can become successful without a woman. Yes. But success without emotional grounding often turns hollow. Without reflection, it turns arrogant. Without partnership, it turns lonely. A woman's role is not to complete a man, it is to humanize his ambition. History remembers men as heroes, but history forgets the women who protected their humanity. Behind calm leaders were patient listeners. Behind resilient men were women who refused to let them break inwardly. Ethan ended his speech with these words: "If you want money, work alone."